Welcome to California in Focus. I'm Eliana Carnoto. California last year passed a bill raising the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour. And it had two exceptions. One, pretty understandable, and one that's raised some eyebrows. Joining me today is Kenneth Schrupp, California reporter for the Center Square. Kenneth, what were these exceptions, and what do we know about the reasons behind them?
The first exception to this fast food minimum wage of $20 an hour is pretty reasonable. It's for fast food chains operated within grocery stores where the chain employees work for the grocery store. So think of a Starbucks within a Target where the employees work for Target, not actually work for Starbucks. They're going to be exempted from that fast food minimum wage because they don't want to create labor differences between employees working under the same roof. This one makes sense. The second one, though, is a little weird because it creates an exemption for fast food chains that sell and bake bread. The only fast food chains that would get this exemption are those that were baking bread before September 15th of 2023, which is the day after the legislature voted to approve this bill. This bakery exemption just seems very arbitrary until you consider, according to California regulations, a national fast food chain has to have at least 60 locations, use common branding, and then with this exemption, have been baking bread for sale on premises as a standalone item. There's only one chain that meets this description, and that is Panera Bread.
And there was a recent report by Bloomberg about Panera Bread's connection to the governor. What was that connection?
An investigation was conducted by Bloomberg finding that billionaire Greg Flynn, who is the largest franchise owner in the United States, is the second largest Panera operator in the world and a classmate and a major donor of Governor Gavin Newsom. He apparently has donated $164,800 at the very minimum to Newsom's campaigns. And Bloomberg says that he pushed Newsom's staff on the idea that Panera is not fast food, and the fast food unions ultimately allowed for a bakery exemption to be created to get the governor's support. Now, the governor, when asked about this exemption, said, well, this is just how the political sausage is made. But this really begs the question, why did he allow for this exemption? And how is this fair to others?
And what is the expected impact of this raise in the minimum wage, and what kinds of benefits will Panera Bread have by being exempt?
There's something called the fast casual category. Most fast casual restaurants are still going to be subject to this minimum wage increase. Number one in the fast casual category is Chipotle, which announced that it's going to be raising its prices in the mid to high single digits in California to make up for the new wage, and is looking to invest significantly in automation so that it has to have fewer of these workers that it's paying more. Now, the problem is that Chipotle is one of Panera's top competitors. So if Panera is able to pay just $16 an hour compared to Chipotle's $20 an hour, they don't have to pass on as high food costs to consumers. And as we know now, consumers are now paying 11% of their money towards food on average now, compared to 5% or less a few years ago. So if people are way more cost conscious and the cost of food is going out of control, you might see a lot more people showing up to eat at Panera instead of Chipotle. And that's good for Greg Flynn.
Well, and this isn't just going to be a one-time thing. The law that raised the minimum wage for fast food also tied future raises to the past year's inflation, correct?
Yes. Under this law, it does seem like you could face an upward spiral in inflation due to the minimum fast food wage being tied to inflation. So the new law does create a labor standard by which the fast food minimum wage will go up by the lesser of 3.5%. or the inflation recorded for that year. So if inflation is, 5-10%, there will be a minimum of 3.5% wage increase. But given that labor is the base cost of the economy, labor and energy, if you allow wages to be mandated to go up, you're going to, of course, see prices go up. This could, of course, create an endless feedback loop where higher inflation drives higher wages, which drives higher inflation, which drives higher wages, a never-ending cycle. I spoke to the National Federation of Independent Business their state director for California, John Kabatek. And he was telling me that there's really no option left for operators other than some combination of increasing prices, reducing employment, reducing shifts, reducing benefits or hours or entire positions, because they just can't make ends meet. And unfortunately, this is something that's going to be happening all across the state with smaller franchise owners who are stuck between the state's regulations and the economic realities of being in a state where your input costs are getting higher and higher every day.
Kenneth, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
Knowledge is power, and you deserve to know what happens in your state government. That's why the Center Square's reporting zeroes in on state authorities publishing stories that show where your money goes and who spends it. The Center Square gives power to the taxpayer by tracking politicians' use of the people's money and demanding transparency from state-run agencies. This is how the Center Square equips you, the American taxpayer, to hold your state government accountable. Sign up now for your state's Center Square newsletter at thecentersquare.com.